Greetings, Earth enthusiasts. If you ever wondered about the incredible perspectives our planet has to offer from high above, you're in the right place. I am Dr. Clive Coetzee, and I'm thrilled to be your guide on this captivating journey into the world of remote sensing. Welcome. And please remember to like, subscribe to, and share this video. Thank you. The focus of this tutorial is on the Google Earth Engine Code Editor, and specifically just to give an introduction on the basics of the code editor. For this, we're going to focus predominantly on one specific data set. Now remember, you can open the code editor using the platform tab and then pressing on the code editor to open the code editor as following. Or you can simply use it, you can open it via the actual data set itself. Now the data set that we're going to use is a digital elevation model data set. Now to get to the data set, we click on the data set tab. We scroll down until we find the terrain option. We click on terrain option. We scroll down and there is the data set we're going to use. I left click on the data set itself and the following window will appear. It gives you the name of the data set, the availability of the data set. In this case, there's only one image, the data set provider, the code or the reference for that specific data set, and then importantly, the description of the data set and the band of the data set. It also gives you the measurement of the unit of measurement and the scale of the data, the image itself. And this is where I want to get to in terms of the code. This is the basic code to get a start with this specific data set. Now remember, you can either copy and paste the data into the code editor. So we basically just right click and copy and paste, or you can basically just press on the code editor tab. And that will take you straight to the code editor and the data set, the code already included. It's exactly the same outcome, no difference. So let's delete it, and there we go. Okay, so let's start from the first line. In the first line, we basically tell the engine or the code editor which data set are we want to work with. And this is where that snippet, remember this piece of code, this snippet, is relevant. It's exactly the same name. So therefore, the engine now knows which data set you want to work with. Second code is which band within that data set you want to, or in that image you want to work with. In this case, we want to work with the elevation band. Again, the band elevation. Now in this case, this specific data set has only one band, but remember, many data sets have multiple bands, so it's important that you specify within your code to the engine which band you want to work with. And you create a variable. Now, just coming back to these names of these variables, all these names are open for you to change. So let's say we don't want to have a data set called dataset. We can simply highlight it and change it, let's say, to DEM. But remember, once I change the dataset, I need to change all the places where it refers to that name in the code itself. So there, that dataset we also now need to change. Otherwise, the code won't work. It won't follow on from the names that you have specified. In this case, we have now a DEM variable, the DEM variable, which is basically the data set itself. Then we say within that data set, which band do we want to work with? In this case, elevation, and we give it a name called elevation. Then there's another variable called slope. Now this variable is generated for this specific piece of code from the elevation band. Now remember, this specific code we find under doc. So if I click under docs and I go to terrain, Right at the bottom, if I click on the terrain, I'll get to this specific piece of slope code. Now, this basically what this code basically does is take the elevation band and it derives the slope from this elevation for this. You can also generate the aspect of it. So if you just copy and paste that in and the input becomes the elevation, you'll be able to generate an aspect or a product, etc., etc. Anyway, so there's now three variables that we generated. The next code is the location of the map itself. So once you press the run, it needs to focus at a specific area. And this is where we tell the editor where to locate or where to center the image. And again, we're going to be able to change that so that it centers around your region of interest. The scale here, very straightforward, is your zoom level. The higher that value, the more you zoom in. The lower the value, the more you zoom out. And then obviously we add this specific variable to our image or to our map. And the image that we're going to add is the slope, which is this particular variable, which is the slope derived from the elevation band within the DEM data set. The minimum value, the maximum value, that is um, degrees, so that's 0 degree and 6 degree, and we call it slope. But we also have this elevation variable that I want to add to the layer. So I simply just copy and paste that piece of code, and I change the slope variable to this elevation variable. And now I need to find the minimum and maximum values. Remember that I find within the description or the content of the data set itself. So there's minus 444 and positive 8806. So I basically just replace that value with minus 444, and the maximum is 8806. And I want to give it a name, and the name is elevation. Okay, so now I've got my data set, and from the data set I've generated two variables. The one is an elevation variable and the one is a slope variable. I have set to Google Earth where to center the map or to the image, and then which images must be displayed. The one is the slope image and the one is the elevation image, or the two variables. Then I simply just click on the run, and you give Google Earth engine, the engine, a couple of seconds, and it will start displaying the images. Now, this image is now displayed somewhere around North America. So if I untick the two images, it's somewhere in the North America. I want the map to be centered around my region of interest, or the area that I want to work with. So I want to have the map centered around this specific image. So I need to find the coordinates of this image or map. So I just click on the add a marker on the left hand side, and wherever I choose my region of interest, let's say here, and you'll see the variable will be displayed on my code editor. If I click on that little triangle, I get to the coordinates. I simply copy and paste that coordinates into my map center. And so the map will be centered around this region of interest. I can either keep this variable or I can delete the variable. Not much of an issue. Remember to save your variable or to save your code. Ne? So you're going to press save, and you're going to save it. In my case, I'm going to say tutorial 1 DEM, and I press OK. And under scripts, you'll see it's busy saving. If I go down the alphabet to T, PQRST, there is the code, tutorial 1 DM. So you don't have to go and generate the code from scratch every time. The code is now saved. By the way, you can also increase these windows and decrease it. That's up to your choice. Okay, so I've changed the map center. I press run, and you'll see it will open. So if I go out and I go back to the map center that was somewhere in North America, like there, if I press run again, you'll see it will automatically center around my region of interest. And I can use the zoom functions or the scale value to zoom in. So if I go 5 and I press run, you'll see I zoom out. If I use 15 and I press run, I will zoom out. So let's keep it at 10. Seems to be a comfortable level. And what's going to be displayed? There will be two images displayed, the slope image and an elevation image. Those images will be in the layers tab here. You'll see there's elevation and there is slope. I can switch on and off these variables by clicking and unclicking these boxes. Remember, I can also, if I have my map, I can move it to the satellite image, and I can overlay this with the elevation and with the slope. So remember, I've now created two layers or two images, a slope image and an elevation image from the data set. With this piece of code, I've centered the images around my region of interest. I've got a scale value, I've named it, etc. Remember, what I can also do is I click in the inspector. I can go to any of these areas, click on it, and it will give me the necessary detail of those two images at that specific place where I have now clicked, which is it gives that specific area. It has a slope of 1.9 degrees and its elevation is 90 meters above sea level. Just for interest, let's click on any place on the sea and you'll see that it doesn't have a slope and it doesn't have elevation because it is on the sea. Let's click on a higher area. Let's click on that area specific. You'll see there's a slope of 10 degrees and elevation of 1. So that's fairly high up, most probably some mountain or something. So that is, in a nutshell, how to get started with the Google Earth Engine by using the DEM dataset. In the next tutorial, I will expand on the basic code to include things like color, to make the image a little bit more pretty, if you want to call it that. Well, thanks for staying tuned with this particular tutorial, and I'll see you soon. Thank you very much.